Okay. Did you did you want me
I was
okay.
joined from Richmond, Virginia, by my friend, our regular friend of the class, CPA from around the way, the star of the Accounting Struggle YouTube channel, president and founder of Arrington Solutions, Courtney Arrington. We are so glad to have you with us again today. Just so many great things that you're doing, and just great information when it comes to taxes and the accounting field, and why paying attention to this is so important for our young people coming out of high school. So thank you again for joining us. I've got a room full here with me at Velma Jackson High School. We're recording this for our friends at Madison Central High School, Ridgeland High School, Germantown High School, and our YouTube channel. So as always, thank you for taking some time for us today.
Thank you for having me. That was such a good intro. So I apologize for the stuffiness. I'm kind of under the weather today. But like you were just saying, I am Courtney Arrington and I run a virtual accounting practice called Arrington Solutions. And I also have a YouTube channel for accounting. It's called The Accounting Struggle. So I got my degree in accounting from Virginia Commonwealth University in 2016. I graduated from there, and I've been in accounting ever since. So I actually started out as a fashion merchandising major and then found my way into accounting by accident and
Wow.
really enjoyed it, really liked it. And then I decided to just pursue accounting. And so that's how I got here. But just a little bit about my background. So I have my presentation up. So basically, I started out in public accounting. So I worked in a tax practice for a couple of years at a regional firm. And I did that for 2 years. And that was at the time when I started the accounting struggle because I was just having such a hard time getting into my position and doing a good job and trying to balance that with studying for the CPA exam. It was just really overwhelming. So I started the blog and then I started creating YouTube videos just to kind of explain, just to share tips and things that I was learning along the way. And it really grew. And it just became something that I've found a real passion for. I really enjoy talking about accounting in a non-technical setting. So I enjoy any opportunity I have to talk about accounting in the career and just how to get into it and all that. I always take that up. So also my college journey. So before, I don't know if this is going to be some of the same people that were in your class before when I talked to them a couple years ago or a year ago, but I was saying I actually was a non-traditional student. So I graduated high school decades ago. And I went straight to work and I worked for a local credit union. I did that for a few years. And then it was probably 10 years after I graduated high school that I decided that I would start in college.
Wow. I
So
didn't know that.
it was a really long time. Yeah, I took a long gap because I just wasn't interested. I never had plans to go to college. It was not on my radar, not something I wanted to do because I grew up like in a low income family and I really needed to work. I just felt like I need to get straight to working. I don't have time to do the college thing for 4 years. It doesn't interest me. And that was just my attitude. And it wasn't until like experiencing the economy crash and all of that and realizing like now I'm going to re-enter the same job market as everyone else who's my peers, but they have college degrees and I don't. So that was kind of what led me to go to college. And I started online. At first, like I said, I was a fashion merchandise major. And then I went to VCU. I transferred to VCU and started in accounting. So that was a little bit about my background. But now what I do as a CPA, so after leaving public accounting in their tax practice, I went to work for an insurance company and I worked in their investments accounting group. So they had this huge $1 billion investment portfolio, and we would look at the different investments and stuff like that. And that was so different from what I was doing before, but it was much more steady pace. So I was able to help clients on the side. So I had a lot of friends who had recently started businesses and they were like, hey, can you do my bookkeeping? Can you do my taxes? And because I had a more normal work schedule, I was able to start doing that. And in 2020, I probably had about two clients, maybe two to three clients that I was doing the monthly bookkeeping for. And then it just kind of grew from there. And it got to a point where I couldn't do my regular job anymore. Like it just was too much to balance. So I just decided in 2021 to go full time in my career and I mean in my own business. So I had already started it. I just decided to go full time in it. And I've been doing it for the past couple of years and it's been great. It's grown quite a bit. So sorry, I have to sneeze 1 second. Okay, sorry. Um, so yeah, that's what I've been doing. So as an accountant, there's different things that you can do, of course, but as a CPA, you'll hear the term CPA and you'll think like, does that mean you do taxes? Or, there's a lot of different things. People will kind of talk about tax and audit as your two career choices, but you do have other choices. So you can focus on tax, and that can be on a personal level where you serve the public, or you can do it at a corporate level where you work for a corporation and you handle the tax for that particular company. And then there's also auditing, which is kind of looking at the reporting, putting it all together, providing assurance, making sure everything is fairly stated, all of that. And then with forensic accounting, that's another cool type of accounting where you can look at a lot of financial crimes. So you'll see this a lot in like the FBI or the CIA or even the IRS. So if you're interested in like that route, kind of when you see people saying like it was a huge money laundering scheme, that sort of thing, it's forensic accounting that is helping to uncover those financial crimes. And then what I offer to my clients is fractional CFO services. So that's going to be like money management and just the overall financials of a company. So I'm helping them with forecasting, looking at what they're going to be doing for the next couple of years in their business instead of just looking at what has already transpired. So there's so many different things you can do as an accountant. I try to encourage students not to just look at it as tax or audit because there's so much more to it than just those two.
And it's not just that. Even if you don't want to be an accountant, you're probably going to need one at some point in your life. So,
Oh,
uh,
you will. You
yeah,
definitely
so it's
will.
gonna, it's important just to even be, and that's your next slide. That's a great segue. Especially these that want to work for themselves, they better be familiar with this.
Yeah,
So
you do
that's what
have to
we're
be
about to talk
familiar.
about.
And it's honestly not enough just to hire someone who's an expert because that's how people get taken advantage of. If you hire someone who is 100% an expert and they speak the language and you don't have any of your own understanding of it, it wouldn't be difficult for that person to misappropriate your funds,
Wow.
basically steal from you and cover it up. That happens a lot to celebrities. When you see these celebrities, um, who are like owing all this money to the IRS and stuff like that. I don't think it's because they simply didn't want to pay. A lot of it is just bad advice, being misguided by their accounting professionals. So you definitely want to make sure you have your own understanding of accounting at least a basic level. So preparing for entrepreneurship, you really there's so many different things that you have to do to prepare. It's not something that you jump straight into. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I like the idea of working in the field that you are interested in first before you jump straight to owning your own business. A lot of times you go into a business or you go to do business with someone and your experience on the customer side is so poor that you're like, wow, this person does not need to be running their own business. That doesn't mean they're not great at it, but maybe they're really bad with time management, or they're very rude, or their process to get you the appointment was just so convoluted. So in those instances, those are some examples of just bad. They're not prepared. Like they're not prepared. They don't have the experience. And those are things that they could have learned with on the job training. So I really encourage people to get some experience first before you try to jump straight into what you want to do. But if that's not an option, let's say your entrepreneurship is you really want to be a content creator, and that's something that you have to jump into on your own. And the reason I use that as an example is because that's kind of the main group of individuals that I help. In that case, you really want to study people who you see as successful. So whoever is like the goal for you of where you want to be, you want to kind of look at what their blueprint was to success and look at where their huge mistakes were to try to avoid what they did. But the other thing to be prepared for entrepreneurship is you really do have to have money. You have to save up. If you go into running your own business full time for yourself and you actually need the money to live off of, then you start to get in a position where you cannot be selective. You can't afford to be selective in who you work with. You can't take on only the projects that interest you or only the projects that feel right. You start to compromise and you start to say, well, I really don't want to promote this brand, but I don't have a choice. I have to pay my bills. Or I really don't want to work with this person, but I kind of need the money. If you're in a position where you aren't using the money to live off, like you have a daytime job, but you're just making this money on the side, then that sets you up for more success. So that way, every time you get paid or you do a big project and you get money, you can actually take that money and reinvest it into your own development so that you can grow. So what I did when I first started my business, like I said, I was working full time. I paid off all of my small debts, like my personal credit cards and things like that. I paid all of that stuff off and I saved all of the money that I made in my business. I also purchased a coaching course, and I paid for someone to kind of help me get better as as running a tax practice and just things that I should look for, just answering some of those questions that I just could not Google. So I reinvested all of that money back into my business instead of needing it to live off. So when I was ready to make the transition, I had about a year of cushion to use because the first couple of years of your business, you will most likely lose money. So it's just really important to make sure you prepare yourself financially if entrepreneurship is important to you. And then I always just say start where you are so you don't have to wait until everything is perfect. And going back to the content creation, um, as an example, you'll see, like, if you're on social media, you'll see these videos with these people who live in these beautiful apartments and skyrise and everything's so perfect. And it makes you feel like, well, I can't record content in my apartment with my popcorn ceilings and white refrigerator and stuff like that, but you can. So I feel like wherever you are, whatever level of expertise you have, if you are doing nails, if you're doing lashes, if you do makeup, whatever level you're in, go ahead and start right there at that level. Don't wait until you have the perfect level of expertise or knowledge to think, oh, this is when I'm going to actually start because you'll never reach that level of perfection. You'll be growing the whole time. And the more you kind of get better at your skill, the more you're going to realize you have further to go. So just start where you are. That's my advice for preparing for entrepreneurship. And then this is just a little bit about how I work with my clients. So I kind of spoke to this already, but with my clients, I help them with preparing for taxes. So I actually prepare their taxes, but we also talk about tax planning. So talking to them about things they can do to save on their taxes so they don't have to pay as much, things that they can do to just overall prepare for quarterly estimates. So if you make your own money and you run your own business, you're self-employed, you're responsible for 100% of your taxes. There's nobody to take anything out of your check. It's not like that. You have to pay all of it. You have to know how much to pay. You have to send the check off. So I help them with that. I also help my clients on a monthly basis with going over just their financial plans and goals and just to, show them how their business is performing. And then I'll do consulting with my clients as well, just to kind of give them an opportunity to tell me what it is they're trying to accomplish, and then I can give them the best advice based on my level of expertise. So those are some of the things that I do with my current clients. So are there any questions?
Yeah, I have some
I
of
have.
the students, but I wanted to talk about a few things,
Okay.
and that's your info, and you're a great Instagram follow, and for
Oh, thank you.
anybody interested in accounting, your accounting struggle is extremely useful for anybody wanting to get into that. But one thing I want to talk about, and I did not know this. This is your third time with us, and I don't believe I ever knew this about you being a non-traditional student because we also have a big emphasis on college and career readiness here at Velma Jackson and in Madison County Schools. And my goal is I want kids to make informed decisions based on their family, based on their desires, based on their interest, based on on their family's finances. So I don't tell kids where they need to go or what they need to do, but I think it's important for them to have all the information. And we have a varied level of kids with me now in here with me now that want to do different things after high school, whether it be university, community college, workforce, whatever. So you talked about you went straight into working after high school. And then you decided to go to college later, which is actually not uncommon. Especially here in Mississippi, that is something that you see quite often. Well, with kids, whether they join the military for a short time or they work, or like you said, they work in the field they want to work in for a short time, get some experience, go to school part-time while they're working. A lot of companies will do that as well. So
Mm-hmm.
talk a little bit about that, because that's actually new to me and I've known you for 3 years. So talk a little bit about that, because that is something that some of these, especially these seniors, I got a few with me here now, maybe mulling on what they need to do once they graduate.
Yeah, so for me, when I was in high school, I worked full time actually. I worked at McDonald's. And I did that full time. And I just knew that I couldn't go from that to zero income in pursuing an education. So it wasn't even, there was no money set aside for me to pay for college, one. I wasn't super interested in going. And I knew I needed to continue to make money so that I could live. So for me, the decision was a no-brainer. I just never had college on my radar until once I had been in my field. So I was working at the credit union. I started as a teller and then I was a member service rep. And I kind of realized that there was a certain cap to how much I could develop and grow. And back then, this was like 2006, 2007, you really needed a college degree to be able to move up. Things have changed with the types of jobs that are available and stuff now, but back then you needed a college degree. So in 2009, I would say, or 2010, I think is when I started going to, get my degree. And I would just say it really helped because I was older. I was so much more focused as a student. I wasn't, an 18-year-old ready to party, getting distracted easily. I didn't live on campus. I drove to school. I was there all day, studied, came home. So it was a much better setup for me. I took it very seriously because it was my money paying for college, my student loans. It was, something that I wasn't just there. I was in the reality of what it was. So I think having been a non-traditional student helped me to appreciate it even more.
Yeah, and VCU is a huge school, so those class sizes are gigantic. And then you're talking about the
Yes.
2000s. That's really before, even though it was there, that was really before the online college trend really started trending up. So now, and banking is a great field, and I've encouraged a lot of young people to look into that, because you get off at the same time every day. You're off on the weekends, you're off on the holidays. You're dealing with money. The finance jobs are not going away. So a lot of these banks, yeah, if you start as a teller, you can go to school online, work your way up within the bank, have that degree, or even have an associate's, and then work your way up within the field. So if you don't want to do the risk of entrepreneurship, you can work in finance and really get that experience in finance, because finance people are always the last ones laid off.
Yeah. And they will pay for a lot of schools. I mean, a lot of companies, if you are going to school and it's going to benefit them, like it's a degree that you're pursuing that's related to their company, they will pay for it or at least a portion. So the last job that I had, they actually paid my student loans. They would pay like
Wow.
$200 a month towards them. So
Oh,
it's a great benefit if you can go on someone else's dime and you have a job, so there isn't that rush of cramming it into 2 or 3 years. Then I say definitely go the company route and allow them to pay for it.
yeah, absolutely. Now, I know we mentioned before we started recording, I have a few kids here with me that are interested in being entrepreneurs, whether it be part-time, full-time, because they're interested in different things like cosmetology and welding and things of that nature that usually at some point are going to
Hmm.
wind up in at least a little bit of entrepreneurship. So
Yeah.
one thing I've told them, I was like, look, I'm sure you're going to do great. I think you're a great student and you're going to be skilled at what you do. You may be able to have great marketing and give people great hairstyles, give people great work on their projects. But at the end of the day, people like yourself, you have to bring people in like that, because this is not something you can just gloss over. And like you said, especially in a rural Black community like we are in, that for years they were easily taking advantage of because they were not given the information that they needed. So finding people like yourself, and getting familiar with this not only can save your business, it can save you thousands of dollars that you didn't know you owed, because every state is going to have state employment laws or self-employment laws where
Mm-hmm.
the taxes have to come out. And then depending on how you're licensed, you have certain, if you have a building, you got to pay property tax. You have to, if you have
Yeah.
employees, you got to pay your workers' comp insurance. You got to pay your
Mm-hmm.
unemployment tax. So there are a lot of things that have to be paid.
Unemployment. Yeah.
Everybody sees the glamorous side on Instagram, but the financial side in the back is really what keeps people profitable. So what are some mistakes that you're seeing from especially these young Black business owners that are 19, 20, 21 years old, that they want to do all the cool stuff, but they don't pay attention to the financial side, which is just even more important?
I would say the I call it compliance. So the compliance stuff, like making sure you have proper licenses for what you're doing. Every state has their own rules. So even if you think that you don't need a license because you're not an attorney and you're just making, doing haircuts, or you're doing videos, making videos at home or whatever, if you are making money, there are some states that say you have to pay for the privilege of doing business in our state, and you have to have a certain permit or a certain license. So you really should just look at your state and Google what laws might impact you. Most of them are written in plain enough English to kind of understand. So that's one of the big mistakes I see, is not having the proper state compliance. But then at a federal level, taxes not being set up to do your taxes the correct way, and then just not doing them, just not filing them. They're making so much money and they're just not paying their taxes. And that will kill you every time. The IRS just continues to tack on penalties and interest, and it just, those balances grow. They're not a small number, and they don't stop until they get their money. So those are some of the big mistakes. And then I would say the hidden cost of entrepreneurship or self-employment are costs like healthcare. You have to pay for your own healthcare, and it's very expensive when you're a single person going to get healthcare. If you have a job, you get a discounted rate because there's a whole bunch of employees applying too. So you might pay $100 out of each check or something like that, whereas it would be like $600 if it's just you. So it's much more expensive for healthcare. Retirement savings is much more expensive. You have to fund all of that yourself. So those are some of the hidden costs of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, and you mentioned something there, and that's a great segue to what I wanted to talk about next, because you hear, the big trend online is they need to lower the retirement age. I want to retire at 40, and and I think, and that's for a couple of reasons. One, because our grandparents, folks our age, when they were getting Social Security at that point in time, Social Security could really cover most of your retirement costs. But it's
Mm-hmm.
not the matter of years you put in; it's the amount of money you put aside. So not paying
Mm-hmm.
attention to that at a young age, not paying, if you're running your own business, if you don't have some sort of retirement set aside, that Social Security is not going to really cover it once you do decide to retire. So talk a little bit about that, because retirement there, these kids are in high school. That's something you need to start thinking about as soon as you start working full time.
It's so hard to get people to care when they're not close to retirement, because it's like, oh, I got time for that. And it's like the best thing you could do for yourself is put money aside at a slow and steady rate when you're young, even if it's not a lot. Even if you graduate high school and you get a job and you're like, I don't have money for retirement, I just need to pay my bills. If you can literally set aside $50 to $100 a month to put into some type of retirement that you basically can just say, this is going away, I'm never going to have it to spend, because it's not a savings account, it is a retirement account. If you can do that, you will be in a much better position when you get older. And this is the example I always give people. If you don't save for retirement when you're young, you are going to be right at Kroger or Sam's Club or Walmart checking receipts at like the other older people who are standing at the door checking your receipt. That's going to be your job when you're 75 years old, because you won't be able to retire. So you have to put away the money now. You have to. And I think about, like, if my parents would have started saving for me when I was born, when I was 18, I would have probably been able to have all the things that I needed. But no one thinks like that, because they think, oh, I have time. The best thing you can do is just put the money away at a rate. It doesn't even have to be a lot. Just let it be at a steady, consistent rate, and it will grow.
Yeah, and then also, and I'm not even a financial expert, and I know this. If you have a job that offers you a matching amount of a 401k or any type of retirement savings, and you do not put in the maximum amount that they will match, you are absolutely outside of your mind because that is free money
Yeah.
that you did not spend. And yeah, you may take a few $100s out of your paycheck, but honestly, you really don't miss it because you don't ever see it. So if you're getting double that in a retirement account every month, and like you said, putting the 50 to 100 in a deferred compensation plan. We have a great one here in Mississippi. You're putting in two accounts that's going to grow over time. So when you're 60 years old, you don't have to worry about having to work somewhere when you're having health problems.
Yeah, so I have a friend, a close friend, who's been working since she was like high school age. She graduated at 18. She didn't, this is not a person who went to college or anything, but she's always had really good jobs and she's always put into her retirement. So now she's 33 and she told me that she's not sure what she wants to do. She doesn't really like her current job. She's going to take 2 years off, take a 2 year gap, and she has the money to do that because she
Wow.
has enough saved and it's not going to impact her at all. Like she still can pay her mortgage, her car, everything because she has enough saved. So, and this is again someone who they didn't go to college. They don't have like she just has a good job and she saved and she's not old. She's like 33. So
Wow.
if you start while you are young, you will set yourself up for success. So I think that that's just I can't stress that enough. Just put something in a retirement account or prepare to be working until the day you die.
Yeah, I mean, and unfortunately, I know these kids watch the TikTokers and the rappers and all that's fun and cool, but at the end of the day, if you're not, everybody's not going to live that life. You really do have to have something set aside. But I do have some questions from the students, so I'll get to as
Yeah.
many of these as I can. This first one,
Okay.
I really like this question. This is Christian Wolf. He's a senior, and he asked, "What is the hardest part about being an entrepreneur?"
Having to do everything in your business and not being able to just focus on what you like to do. So like I do accounting, the actual work of accounting. I enjoy that. But I also have to do all of the retention, making sure my clients, I keep them, making sure I grow my client base. So I have to go out and do marketing and networking and bring in new business. So business development is my job. All the financial planning and stuff, that's all my job as well. And then also like the tech side of things. I'm a virtual practice. So all of it is like a lot of software I have to review and looking at these little certificates and making sure it's safe for my clients. I don't always understand that because I'm not an IT specialist. I'm not a tech person, but I have to be. So you have to be everything in your business until you can pay someone else to do it. So I'm the CEO, the CFO, the IO. I'm all of those things, and I can't just worry about my one job. That's the hardest part about running your own business.
Yeah, and I think that's something that gets missed a lot too. But you made a great point as well, is that me and you are fine talking like this, and I've spoken in front of thousands of people, and you speak all the time. But when you're an entrepreneur, you have to be able to talk, you have to be able to sell, you have to be able to speak. And these kids get so mad we make them present, and it's not something that to be mean. But and they actually, and this bunch does a great job. I will say that, but it's not their favorite thing to do. But they need to understand that face-to-face sales, that face-to-face communication when it comes to dealing with customers. If you're going to work for yourself or even, work in any type of business that works with somebody face-to-face, you have to be able to communicate and you have to be able to sell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. You can't just be like, oh, that's not my personality. I'm shy.
Oh, can't do it. I like this one too. This is DeKayla Williamson. She's in 10th grade, one of our cheerleaders here at Velma Jackson. And she asked, how do you deal with fear and doubt within your own business?
Oh my God, I deal with that so frequently. It is impossible to not have it. I deal with imposter syndrome all the time. But what I do is I reassure myself with facts. So if I get presented with an opportunity and I start to feel like, oh my God, why are you trying to do this? You know you're not smart enough for this, or this is too complex for you. I'll just say, well, let me look at the facts. I have done this for several years now, almost 10 years I've been in this field. And I have worked with some of the smartest people and the most experienced people. And I've been in this my own business for 2 years now, and it's kept me fed and clothed, and it's been afloat for this many years, and I keep getting blessed with more opportunities. I have to be doing something right. It can't just all be good luck at this point. It's been going on for too long to just be good luck. So maybe, yes, I'm nervous because it's a big opportunity, but I have the resources. And if I don't know the answer, I know someone who can help me get to the right answer. So that's really all you have to do is kind of talk yourself down off the ledge, but you will encounter those moments of doubt. That's just going to come with it.
Absolutely. This is a good one too. This is Harmony Williams. She's a senior captain of our dance team here at Velma Jackson. Now she wants to get into the cosmetology industry. Very talented at it. And
Yes.
she's the one of the ones I said would at some point probably going to be an entrepreneur. So she asked, "What are some
Yeah.
advice you would give for somebody to build credit and save money after graduating?"
So building personal credit, my advice, well, one, when you think of credit, my rule of thumb is this. It's okay to have credit and take on credit because you do need to build your credit, but if you can't buy it twice, you can't afford it. So don't put something on credit that you can't pay for anyway, unless we're talking about a house. But if you don't have the money to buy that $50 purchase at Target, don't put it on your card. Don't use credit as a I'm gonna just use this to get to the next, because then you'll end up in terrible debt. But my advice as far as building credit, I don't recommend you do that with store cards. I recommend you go to your local bank or credit union and you do a secured credit card. So that's when you say, I have $300, and they will say, give me your $300. We're going to put it in an account, put a lock on it, and we'll give you a $300 credit. So that means you use it, for gas or whatever you're going to use it for, and you pay it off. And then when you're done with that secured credit card, your $300 is back available to you. So you basically put up the collateral. So that's the best way to start your credit journey, and just make sure you make your payments every month on time. And as time goes on, it will grow.
Yeah, and it's how store credit cards are even legal is beyond me because they make a third of their income based off the fees and interest off of store credit cards because they talked you into getting 20% off on one purchase.
They're never worth it. They're never a good deal. And people who are bright do not say yes to those cashiers who are like, they have a quota to meet. I used to work for Old Navy.
Yep.
They are only doing that because they want to meet their quota, but they're not a good deal. And you should always say no to those. If you want to get a credit card to use, get one that can be used everywhere, not just at that one store.
I'm with you on that. I just got one more from the students. This is David Ford. He's a junior, member of our championship bowling team here at Velma Jackson, and he asked,
All
what are
right.
some of the different types of taxes that someone would have in a business?"
Ooh, there's so many. You would be surprised. Okay, let's start with employment taxes. So if you have employees, like people who work for you, who report to you, you have to pay, as the employer, the person who employs them, you have to pay their Social Security and Medicare taxes and unemployment taxes. So you have to pay that. And you also have to pay workers' compensation is another type of insurance that you'll have to pay. So you'll have like employment taxes, payroll taxes is what they're usually called. So that's one, but you only have those if you have an employee. If you don't have an employee, then you don't have to worry about that. You also have to pay sales tax if you sell an actual product. So if you're going to sell clothes or shoot something tangible, you have to pay sales tax. And that is really just an exchange. You collect it from them to give to whoever you're collecting it for. So it doesn't really come out of your money. You're like, I'm selling a shirt for $100. My local state says I have to add on $5 to that. I'm going to take that person's $5 and give it to the state. So it's not really something you have to pay if you set the money aside correctly. So payroll taxes, franchise tax is something that you have to pay in certain states. Not all states have it, but some states do. And that's not if you have a franchise. That's literally just a type of tax that you have to pay for doing business. Like California, New York, DC, they all have franchise tax. And then you have your income tax. income tax is what you pay at a personal level. So if you own a business, that money is still going to have to be claimed on your personal taxes. You'll pay income tax on that. But the biggest one is self-employment tax. So you pay self-employment tax to cover you as the employee and the employer. And that's the one that really gets most people caught up because they didn't see it coming and they didn't expect it. Those are the main ones. There's certainly other taxes, state and local taxes, depending on where you live. That's going to be more in big cities. So, like California, um, is a state that has a lot of them. New York City has their own world of taxes. But yeah, those are like the main ones.
Yeah, and even if you're in a income free, income tax state, free state, that federal self employment tax is still going to apply no matter where you are.
Yes. Absolutely. So if you move to Texas, if you move to Florida or Washington State, for example, I have clients in Seattle, they have to pay a business, it's like a privilege tax to do business. So they have to pay tax on their gross receipts. So even if they don't even keep all that money and they had to spend it all on business expenses, they have to pay tax on those gross receipts, which is all the money they sell. So
Wow.
it's definitely not something you're getting around. You're going to pay tax one way or the other, no matter
Wow.
where you live.
Well, we're almost out of time, and as always, we just thank you so much for making time for us. I learn something every time you're here, and it's just amazing, your depth of knowledge and all the stuff you're doing. But before we go, one thing I talked about before you came on is like everybody here with me now is 15, 16, 17, 18 years old, and they may think this stuff is stupid and boring. It's never going to apply to me. But why is this so important right now, especially as young Black kids, to at least be familiar with how this is going to affect their life after high school?
Honestly, the world is basically banking on you not paying attention to this and not knowing about this. So that way it would be so much easier to trip you up for not knowing. It's so easy to take advantage of you when you don't know what your options are. That's one. Two, if you are going to be living in this world, this is not stuff you can opt out of. If you get a traditional job, you're paying taxes. If you get a non-traditional job and you work for yourself, you're paying taxes. No matter what, you will pay taxes. So you have to understand how it all works, how your money is to be organized. If you want to be successful, the compliance part has to be done. You just have to get that part right. That's the first step, and then we worry about the actual business. Without that, nothing else is going to even matter. So I encourage everyone to just care enough to at least ask the question. And don't take bad advice off of TikTok for taxes. That's my other tip.
Yeah, find people like yourself. And again, ArringtonSolutions.com, Courtney Arrington, the accounting struggle on YouTube, all the way from Richmond, Virginia. Thank you so much, as always. You're
Thank you.
such a great guest. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Always a pleasure. Talk to you soon, my friend.
Okay, bye.
See ya.